Don Moores, and welcome to Montgomery Weekend Review. Jubilee is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year and deserves applause for its continuous service to the adult disabled community. Tim Wiens, the executive director of Jubilee, is here to tell us about the future that he hopes he'll be leading the organization to achieve. BeTheOne.org is a project of Montgomery County Public Schools, and nonprofits throughout our community to combat suicide and substance use issues. Rachel Larkin, Director of Crisis Prevention at EveryMind, runs the Montgomery County Hotline, and she's here to tell us all about Be The One. June is Men's Health Month, a time that CCI Health and Wellness Services leads the way in paying special attention to males of all ages and their particular medical needs. José Luis Diaz of CCI Health and Wellness is here to report. Summer and holidays are on the way. And with the summer and holidays, there's a lot of drinking going on as people get together to celebrate. Mariana Cordier is here. Mariana Cordier, a local attorney, is here to give us some warnings about ways that the police are waiting for us. And the community should be taking care to make sure that they don't get caught in the web. Tim, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
40 years. Now, I, like you, want to look ahead. But before we look ahead, let's look behind a little bit. 40 years, adult disabled community, overlooked. We all want to look after the kids, but kids grow up and they live longer and longer, don't they?
Absolutely.
Welcome.
So thank you. Good to be here. So 40 years ago, what was happening was people with intellectual and developmental disabilities were living in institutions, and they were being moved out into group homes, and that's how we got started. We opened a group home as an alternative to that institutionalization. And so now 40 years later, and over this time, we're sort of going beyond group homes. What's next? And so now we're moving people out of group homes into their own apartments, into their own houses, partnering with folks to do the housing, and so that's kind of the trend that we're looking at right now.
So, you know, I know so many questions coming from the others, but real quick, those 40 years, is it, I mean, we've seen so much more than just sort of group homes to what you're doing. What would you say within Montgomery County, within this DC area, has been the most pronounced change over those 40 years in your field?
I mean, I just think connecting people to community better. You know, you go to the Giant, the Safeway, to the stores. You see people with disabilities working there in the community. Right. You see people at the libraries, you know, out in the community. And so I think people just over time have become more connected to communities. And to some degree they were hidden away before, and certainly in institutions. But even in group homes and in sheltered workshops, those are kind of going away, and people are more connected to community.
Isn't it also that the community and having them out more and not hidden away like before is more accepting, yes, and is accustomed to now seeing them and having them in the workforce and working with them? I
think so, absolutely. The community is much more accepting. You know, I would always get questions about, you know, you open a group home in the community and the community goes wild, and you know, that there's some of that, but very little of that. I mean, I think communities are opposed to anything new coming into their communities.
But it's even more than accepting; it's embracing.
Yeah,
it's inclusiveness, right? We talk about diversity. Montgomery County is a very diverse area, but diversity is not just about racial and ethnic differences. It's about all levels of abilities, right, and cultures and things like that. So I like the idea of inclusiveness.
Yeah, and that's really what we see as our job, is connecting people, helping make sure that they have relationships, that they have connections, that they're not just connecting to other people with disabilities and staff and families, but way beyond that.
Speaking of staffs, the new minimum wage, is that been a helpful thing for the organization?
It is, because of the way I think the state of Maryland and Montgomery County have approached it. because most of our funding comes from the public, from the state, from Medicaid, from the county. And so they've recognized that we need to be lifted up to stay up with that. And so, you know, that's really helping us. The county council just passed their budget, and there's more money in there for us to stay above that. So our goal is, on average, for our direct service staff to be at 125% of minimum wage. And that's where we are now. So with the minimum wage soon going to $12, our average will be at 15, which is a lot better than it was. And so it really is helping us develop that workforce. And, you know, that's certainly one of the keys to the future, is to develop that workforce and to give them a sense of pride and ownership in you know, who they are.
What I find interesting is that my mother just got, you know, she had been very ill, and, you know, I was involved in taking care of her, and she was in hospitals and institutions, and I found that the level of care at home and being at your own home is so much better than these actual facilities. Not to disparage them, because they're doing what they do, but I really think that keeping, you know, these folks in their home where they grew up, in the community where everyone knows them, is such a better experience. And
I think, you know, as we look to the future, I think technology is helping us do that. So all of our records, all of our information systems are cloud-based, so you can be working from anywhere, and, you know, we can oversee that, people can deliver those services. I think one of the big areas is transportation. We were talking about this before the show. Almost none of the people we serve drive. Well, you don't need a drive anymore in the future world. You can get around without somebody driving you there, and I think that's going to be incredible.
When you talk about sense of community, what about for parents? Does it give them a sense of opportunity to take care of their adult children after they're gone?
Tim, we've got about 45 seconds left in the segment.
So, I mean, the driver for our services is parents getting older and worrying about what's going to happen when I'm no longer around, and that, you know, that is continuous. And so I think for them to be able to make that transition while they're still living, while they're still around, you know, the folks we serve have siblings, and so they're still connected, but making that transition is so important to families, to parents especially, and they can help them do that when they're still around rather than waiting until they can't.
Give us a vision, 15 seconds, on the next 10 years.
Well, I think the use of technology to help people live more independently, to have their own homes, to have their own jobs, to have romance, all those things, you know, that's what we're about.
More inclusiveness.
Absolutely.
Tim, thanks, and look forward to having you continue to come back here and
it's my pleasure.
Share these good words. Rachel, you are the one. You be the one for us right now. Tell us about this exciting program.
Be the One is a great community awareness campaign for Montgomery County about the issues of suicide and substance use. And really what it is encouraging people to reach out to their friends, to ask, to help keep that person safe, to get them connected with resources to follow up. Because often when we're in a great deal of emotional pain, we don't have the energy or the ability to reach out for help. But if I'm concerned about you and I can help you connect to resources, I can ask you if you're okay, it makes a huge difference.
We turtle up, we get into our own funk, and others watch that and let us alone, and then immediately you're isolated, aren't you?
Well, you can be very isolated. People don't want to be nosy. People don't want to pry. But it's often, particularly with men, coming up on Men's Health Month, men are very reluctant to reach out for help. But if a buddy takes them to say, "Hey, I'm concerned about you. Let's make this phone call. Let's go to this resource," it can make all the difference. And we're losing so many lives to suicide and substance use each year. And if you can just make a phone call for a friend or help them connect, it makes all the difference.
How many phone calls? I'm sorry. How many phone calls do you get?
Well, the hotline takes more than 14,000 calls a year. We also do chat and text that tends to be a little bit skewing younger, so you can reach out in any medium you want to. There's help available no matter where you are or what how you want to reach out.
You're serving really all ages.
All ages, yep. Yeah. We've had suicidal 10-year-olds and suicidal 90-year-olds, and we're happy to help no matter who you are.
With the school shootings and the environment that the country is going through, have you noticed more young people calling concerned about others in their schools and stuff?
We are getting a lot of young people on our online chat and text forums. We did almost 200 chats last month. 70% of those folks were suicidal or extreme emotional distress, and they average between 12 and 22 age-wise. Just the general air, everybody is stressed out. There's so much pressure. The young girl in Texas was like, I knew it was going to happen here. It was just a matter of when. And it's a different school. It's a different environment these days. Social media makes it very different as well.
Right.
Is there a time of the year that hits? Is it the holidays? Is it summertime?
It's right now. Right now is our peak season for suicide crises.
Why is that?
There's a lot of different theories about it. Everybody thinks it's the winter holidays, but it's not. People this time of year have a lot of energy. It takes energy to carry out those sorts of acts. But also what's going on right now, graduation. If you're not graduating, it hits you hard. If you're not getting married, you know, there's a lot of things going on, and if you're not taking part of it, you can feel very alone. Right. There's a lot of stressors right now going on in the world.
Yeah, it's amen in terms of the stressors. I'm not sure, I mean, so much is out of our control.
Yes.
You're talking about putting it into our control,
yes.
right? By getting it out of the global to the community, to your neighbor, to just a buddy.
Anybody can help. You go betheone.org, and it shows you what questions to ask.
So that you be the one to make the difference on your for somebody else. What a great name.
Well, and I think one of the challenges that we have in general is the stigma that comes with anything that has to do with behavioral health.
Still, isn't it? And it's just, this show, we've been talking about it for 15 years or more, and the stigma is just wrong, isn't it?
It's wrong. It's still there, but I think the younger generations are more comfortable dealing with some of and being able to reach out and talk.
Right.
But there's still a stigma, and there's still the negative connotation that, you know, if you ask for help.
And people, I think, are good at hiding sometimes what they're really feeling, and so people are amazed when they realize that they are really suffering and having problems. So, you know, to be the one to be able to help is rather challenging, because maybe if you really know the person really well, you can pick up on it.
How do you develop people to be the one?
Well, you know, I talk to kids all the time, and like, you know, if your friend fell down the soccer field and broke their leg, you would get them medical attention. Right. If their life was in crisis due to substance use or suicide, you know, why would you keep that a secret? You know, they're often afraid of getting people in trouble or the stigma. But, you know, if you're concerned about somebody's health-wise, mental health is the same thing. Mental wellness is just important. And you're not going to get anybody in trouble. And, you know, just reaching out for help makes all the difference. Just let them talk.
So how do you know if you're being successful? How do you measure success in what you're doing?
Well, you know, we measure success in reduction of suicide rates, and Maryland has a low suicide rate in general, but you know, it's going up, and we're seeing a lot of young people dying right now. The opioid crisis is sort of just beginning to crest, so we want to get out ahead of that and to lose less lives to that. And it's as simple as, you know, I'm concerned about you, buddy. Let's make this call. Let's see what's out there.
A little bit over 30 seconds left. Anything that you want to share? You could even put a message into the camera straight there about, you know, challenging people to be the one and to make that difference.
Sure. You can make a difference in someone else's life. Make a phone call to a hotline, to a lifeline. Get their friend to a resource that when they really need it. You're saving a life, and it's so simple. Go to the website. We have the questions to ask. We have the things that you can do. You would help somebody in need if they're having a mental health crisis or a health crisis. It should be the same.
Perfect. And ended exactly on time. Thanks. Look forward to having you come back again. Sure. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. José Luis, it is so great to see you.
Thank you, likewise.
Especially because we're talking about something near and dear to the two of us.
Absolutely.
Our health. Man, forget it. We got two women on this panel. Finally!
They're going to outlive us. They're going to outlive us, so we don't have to worry about them.
So, are you guys feeling denied?
So, do you think they're against this? Because
no, they're not. They're not. They would rather have somebody to be along with them.
Have us around.
Of course.
Someone's got to be the slave labor.
That's right.
Somebody to take care of the man flu.
That's right. And we have to do our part. And that's what we're not doing. 27% of our patients are men.
Okay.
That's
nothing.
That's nothing.
Right.
It should be equal amounts, right? Same amount of men
population.
as
Sure,
women.
49, 50%, whatever.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the issues that you are looking at over the course of this month?
Well, we want to bring awareness to the issues that are impeding men from having healthy and longer lives.
Okay.
Depression is one of them. 30% of men experience depression during their lifetime. Guess how many ask for help?
One.
Less than a quarter. Less
And
than
that
a quarter.
his mom made him.
That's right.
But that sounds low. 30% sounds low to me.
It is.
Well, that's what's those are the people that are
Admit
seeking
it.
help
Right.
and admitting that they have depression. And
Okay.
so what happens then is depression is one of the factors that gives us that men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women.
Right.
So it's just as simple, like you said, if you had a friend that said, listen, something doesn't seem right, let's go talk to somebody.
So be the one coming in from our last with Rachel and organization. So mental health issues, men not recognizing. What else do we have?
We're not going in to get checked out, period.
Preventive care.
Preventative care is the #1 reason that we have such a low population of males in our practices. We have done a very good job in our society with the advent of the Affordable Care Act and other things to push people towards the primary care service delivery sites, but to prevent
But I think
issues.
it's one of those things where, you know, and sometimes I even see it with my brother. He's like so macho that I'm just going to tough it out. You know, I'm okay. It'll pass or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, well, and if it doesn't,
If it
should we
doesn't.
figure out? Is it your heart? Is it? Do you have this? Do you
Well,
have-
what is it?
you
Is
know.
it all machismo? I mean, or is it just that we're stupid?
I think it's a combination. Yeah, it's a combination. Women are 100% able to go and prevent any health issues just because they do preventative care, and men don't. We wait too long to go. We only go when we're not feeling well, and that's the wrong time to go. Our job as primary care facilities is to keep people healthy, and the only way we can do that is when we see you when you're healthy.
Right.
And it's a psychological thing, I think, too, because I think when you go to do a preventive check, it's almost like you feel like you're admitting that maybe there's something
There
wrong.
might be something wrong,
And
yeah.
you don't want to admit that you might have a weakness or you may have a problem. You want to be like, you know, I aced that physical.
That's right.
Tim,
No,
weigh in, Tim, will
Yeah,
you?
no, well, I think it is a cultural thing. When I think about my wife and me, you know, she's like, maybe I should get this checked out. Maybe, you know, and I'm like, no, I'm fine.
That's right.
It's
the
a
same.
cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing. I think there is also an age thing. I think we have that. We, like you mentioned earlier, we're going to have the largest elderly population in a few years when the baby boomers hit
Sure.
retirement age. What are we going to do then, right? Where are we going to go? How are we going to keep these folks healthy and active, productive members of societies like the folks in your organization? So the idea is to create a relationship with the people that can keep you healthy.
How convenient are you? Like, is it easy for people to find? Is it easy where they
Absolutely.
can go after work to go take care of these things?
So we have 9 locations that are focused on primary care, and we're open to everyone, people with insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, and folks who don't have insurance, they pay a nominal fee based on income. And the idea is that we want you to come in so we can establish a relationship. We're not going to do it alone. We need the folks to bring in their thoughts, their ideas, start the conversation, and help them.
We've got only
remain
about
healthy.
30 seconds left. I wish we could talk.
So,
Issues. I mean, young, old, white, black, Hispanic, rich, poor. Who are the ones who you're most?
there's no difference.
Everybody's a
Everyone is
loser.
the same. Everyone's
All these
missing. All the
men.
male are missing. And so we need to start with our boys. We need to start with our boys, getting them used to this is part of staying healthy. You know, just like you in Father's Day in June, instead of taking your father, your uncle, your brother to lunch, take them to see the primary care provider. we're there. You know, skip
Not
the
quite
lunch.
as much fun.
It's
I
not
like
quite
that.
as much fun, but you'll be there around longer for you to have more fun in the future.
True.
You're open on Sundays.
We can.
Jose Luis, happy Father's Day to all of us.
Thank you. We're going to
Clueless
stay
men.
there.
There you go.
We're going to stay healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, one of the things keeping men and women from living full and productive lives is drinking and then getting out on the road. Welcome, Mariana.
Thank you.
Our wonderful resident attorney.
Thank you for having me back.
Oh, so it's wonderful to have you back. So tell us a little bit about it. We shouldn't be drinking and driving. Is that correct?
Well, so, right. When everyone recalls the DUI, DWI laws being enacted, the conversation was you can have a glass of wine with dinner, you can have a beer, but really the law is a .08, and you can blow less than a .08 breath that's your breath test that takes the alcohol.
It's the breathalyzer
in your breath.
you're blowing in, and they see immediately that either
so 0.08, you're getting a ticket. At 0.05, we've had cases where people have blown a 0.05, which is below.
That's impaired.
And you still get the ticket. You still, and going to face a lot of potential issues with the criminal justice system, with the MVA. So
your insurance provider.
Well, depending if you get convicted, yes.
Right.
So, so the issue is, you don't drink and drive. So if you're going to drink, don't drive. You can take an Uber or a Lyft or a taxi or whatever, walk. It's much better than taking a chance of having an accident that could actually cost someone their life.
Sure.
And if you're hosting the parties and stuff like that, or the restaurants, if they are aware of this, there's more of a control and observation because of the liability. But the bottom line is, it's not good for you to risk so much.
Have Lyft on your phone or Uber. Have a friend. Have somebody.
In today's day and age, there's just no justification for drinking and driving.
So used to be, you thought, I've just had one or two, I'm fine. But those days are behind us, right?
Yeah, you could be fine. You could technically be fine.
Right.
You go through a checkpoint, and they will charge you for it. The police are there doing what they are supposed to do in enforcement of making sure that the roads are safe. People are like, how can I avoid it, or how can I beat it? But really the truth is, how safe are you with the people around you driving, or you to them? Because if you're drinking, you're impaired.
Is there an increase of people getting ticketed with DUIs nowadays?
So it's getting to be more common, unfortunately, because the level of education as to the effects of alcohol is not as good. And so, and also, for instance, why are we talking about it now? We're in May. We're going into Memorial Weekend.
Why are we talking about it now?
We're talking about barbecues. We're talking about festivals. We're talking about
bushels
the
of
holidays.
crabs and beer.
Well, I don't know how many crabs you're going to have this year because
Actually,
of the
no, the bushels.
industry.
The bushels are coming out. It's the
crabs.
It's the picked crabs.
So with all of that, there is an increase of opportunity, and you're having a good time. It's hot. You're thirsty.
Right.
Unfortunately, there is no limitation to drinking. You can do it. Just don't drive. That's the message.
Do we have an issue? I mean, coming back to your issue and be the one. Is this a time where, with the depression and all of that, people start drinking more as well?
Sure, that can be a sort of a maladaptive coping skill that people have as well. My concern is, what about good Samaritan laws? Like, if a teenager is concerned about their friend who's behind the wheel and they don't want to get in trouble because they've been drinking themselves, like, can they report their friend, or can they?
The best thing to do is not the issue of reporting them, is taking their keys or confronting them, because you can report it, and the police arrived at the scene of the accident by the time. The officers aren't going to be as available. It depends on what emergencies are going on or what's going on. So the best bet to be the good friend, to be the one, would be to take their keys, or don't let them, call their parents and say, he's intoxicated, she's intoxicated.
And that's tough for young people because they don't want to ruin their relationship. No. They feel put upon if they do this, or
but
they'll be ostracized.
It only takes, and I really don't drink, so I find myself always being the one driving. But all it takes is,
I need to get your number.
is to say, and I don't charge like Uber, is to say to someone, hey, you know what? We're going to go out, and we're all probably going to drink, or you're going to drink, or whatever. Let's plan the Uber, and it also gets into money. Who's going to pay for it? Or I'm not going to be drinking. Let me drive. And so, or you can stay
That's
over.
True.
You have to have that incentive to talk about it before you start the night, not at the end of the night.
Well, and I think culturally it's shifting. All of my college friends, when we get together, there's always a lift involved. So I think we're probably heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, 5-10 seconds.
It's not worth it. If you get caught, you're facing possible jail time, probation, alcohol treatment classes, losing your license, and my costs.
Thank you.
Sure.
And thank all of you for joining me, and thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's Montgomery Week in Review. Special shout out to Mandy Wyndham, who's been a special friend of this show. Good luck as you leave here and head off to Ingleside. You've been so wonderful to all of us. I'm Don Moores, welcoming you back next week, I hope, at this very same time to watch Montgomery Week in Review. Look forward to seeing you then.